Bliss.io.
Hey folks, Mike Barron here. Huff couldn't make it. Huff's an anesthesiologist. He's working real hard today. He thought he could be here, but he's got to anesthetize more patients. He will be with us next week. But Huff is not just an anesthesiologist. He's written a rock opera based on H.P. Lovecraft, and he's published several novels of his own. But I'll let Huff tell you about those when he gets here. I'm here to talk about the culture. Y'all know what I mean by the culture, don't you? It's what we watch for entertainment, ostensibly. But the culture is also going online and seeing who's zooming who. Now, if anybody here is a member of X, they know that a feud will start with a crossword or a misunderstood phrase, and then that feud will grow legs like a centipede. And that feud will go on for hours, days, weeks, months, years, decades, and centuries. There are feuds on X that precede the 21st century, I swear. You all know what I'm talking about because you've all seen them. There are especially a lot of feuds in the field of comic books. What they say about the growth of academe applies to comic books. And what they say about academia is that the infighting is so vicious because the stakes are so meager. And you can say that about comics too. We all love comics. Everybody loves comics, and everybody thinks they can do a comic, and everybody does a comic. And then they send them to me. And I'm happy for these people, and I congratulate them on their comics. But if the comics aren't very good, I don't comment on them. I don't review them because my job as a critic or as a reviewer, if you prefer, is to point out the good and not to highlight the bad, especially when you have young, earnest creators or middle-aged, earnest creators putting their heart and soul into a work. Comics are a medium like any other. You can use that medium for any type of story. Although I will say that comics are the worst medium for horror. And the reason they're the worst medium for horror is ultimately they're just pictures on a page. And no matter how horrible that page is, that picture, you can always just close the book and set it aside. That does not stop the popularity of horror comics. I see where my friend Kelly Jones and Matt Wagner are putting out a third volume of Dracula, and it's doing very well indeed. And I salute them. As you know, Kelly Jones and I worked on Dead Man, which is where Kelly Jones became Kelly Jones. And his work on Dracula is spectacular. You need to check it out, folks. It's on Indiegogo, which brings us to my own work. But wait, let's not get to my own work too soon. I was talking about the feuds on X. Now, I have a number of friends who are on both sides of feuds. People with whom I've worked who hate each other's guts and can't stop taking jabs at each other. Occasionally, I will reach out to them and say, Ephraim, not one more word. Just don't engage. Just don't engage. Or as Rush Limbaugh said, don't punch down. Some of these people are punching up, but that doesn't matter. And the thing is, if you don't engage, they'll go away. I've been attacked countless times on my X and Facebook accounts, some by good friends of mine who take issue with my politics, which are plain middle of the road politics. But I never respond. They're my friends, and I try to overlook like that. And I've tried to hang on to my liberal friends through the years, and I've managed to hang on to a great number of them, and they know who they are. And they're free to come on my pages and say, you're full of shit, which they do. But I never respond to that. My statement is my statement, and it doesn't need subsequent explanation. Or as they say, I waive consecutive translation. I love comics. I've been at them for 40 years, as you all know. I broke into comics with my friend and partner Steve Rude with Nexus. And in fact, we are in the midst of crowdfunding. Actually, the crowdfunding is over, but the book is being printed even now. This massive book is the Nexus Omnibus. Let me show it to you if I can find it. The Nexus Omnibus gathers together the first 17 issues. It's 888 pages long. 888 pages long. Where's that file? Wait. Oh, wait, here we go. Upload file. There we go. Ah, can't do it. All right. Oh, wait, there it is. It was there momentarily. There it is. That's what it looks like. It's oversized. It's not the size of a regular comic, which means you can need two hands to lift it, and you can use it to crush rodents. And I'm sure that people will, because a lot of people have rodents. We had rodents. And then I found out that if you pour Clorox on the floor, it keeps the rodents away. Just a hat tip. And that's what's funded now. It's if you missed it, the Indiegogo has come to an end. We're going to go up on Fund My Comics shortly. You can find all my books at baroncomics.com. After we are done with this, let's see, how do I get rid of that? How do I get rid of that now? Share screen. No. There we go. No. Now I'm stuck with it for all time. No, wait, we're not. Here we go. I'm just learning how to do this, folks. Bear with me. It's gone. On October 31st, Halloween fittingly, we're going to launch Bronze Star #2. Now, those of you who've read Bronze Star know what you're in for. It's a supernatural Western. I have always wanted to work with Pat Broderick. I remember passing him at a comic convention in the 90s, and he was out lying by the pool. And I thought, man, I'd like to go up and talk to him, but I don't really have anything to say except I love your work, which I should have done. But it wasn't until years later that we met at a convention in San Antonio, and we became good friends there. And then a couple years after that, I said, Pat, would you be interested in a crowdfunded book? And he said, well, yeah. And I said, well, what do you want to draw? He said, I want to draw a supernatural Western. And so Bronze Star was born. Now, the thing about Bronze Star is it takes place in a little town called Cobb's Gap at the foot of the Canadian Rockies. Cobb's Gap is a very peaceful town, especially after nightfall. And the reason it's peaceful is because the sheriff is a werewolf. Hence the name Cobb's Gap. Now, here we go again. I'm going to upload a file if I can do it. Yes. Damn. I got to get creative to do this. Here we are. Bronze Star 1 was about a werewolf. Bronze Star 2 is about a Wendigo. Bear with me.
You're going to have to unshare the page you're sharing in order to share a new one.
All right.
And you have to unshare it so I can, you got like up above, there's a blue dot. Yeah, there you go. Now you add a new one and then I'll put it up.
Did you see that Wendigo?
Not yet.
Oh, all right. That voice you hear, folks, that's Pops. And Pops is helping me out here because otherwise I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm looking for that. It's going to have to come from here. Here it is. You see that, Pops?
Not yet. Where are you putting it? In Facebook or where are you putting it?
I'm trying. I'm
If
trying
you
like
put it in
hell.
my Facebook, I would
You
definitely
know what? I'll put it on Facebook.
put it in my Facebook and I'll share it.
All right. I could almost click live video, but I'm doing a live video. Second, I'll get to some questions because I need material to keep talking.
Get your questions ready, people.
There it is.
Do not
Now it's
see
on
it
Facebook. See that, Pops?
on your Facebook.
Not my Facebook. I can put it on your. Yeah, I'll put it on
Oh, you
your.
got you, yeah. Okay, I got it. I got it. I got it.
Bob's gonna tutor me about this. I'll get around to it
I
eventually.
got this. I got this for you, buddy. I'm gonna make it nice and big too. What do you think of
Good. I don't like looking at my own face.
that? But where did it go?
Where?
I just downloaded it and it like disappeared. Where did it go? Okay,
It's a
I'm gonna
mystery to
try this
me.
again. I'm going to try this again.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I think I got it.
Uh-oh.
I got it.
You got it? I mean, I got it too. If you got it. Yeah, we both got it. See, there's me and there's you. Yours is better though because it shows your Barkwire logo. There you go.
There's a Barkwire. That's Bob. He's our mascot, and Bob also is a professional squirrel killer. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. But for now, this is an image from the next bronze star, uh, which we're going to call Wendigo for obvious reasons, because that's a Wendigo. But it's not just about a Wendigo. That's just one of the stories in there. There are two 48-page stories in Bronze Star 2, plus an 8-page lagniappe starring some people that are going to shock and delight you, because I love using real characters from history, and I love using characters from the Victorian age, famous characters. And those who read my Sherlock Holmes graphic novel Leviathan know what I'm talking about. It's no secret that Leviathan, Sherlock Holmes teams up with Captain Nemo to avert a world war. But Captain Nemo is just the first of many guest stars who have a real role to play. They're not just walk ons, they're integral to the plot, and they will astonish and delight you. If you can find it, I don't know. I think we may have sold out, but we may go back to press, and we're probably going to get a European publisher to reprint it for us. Now, the thing about comics, as I was saying, is you can use them to tell any kind of story you like, and horror is the worst. And because you can close the book and set it aside at any time, honey, dinner's on. Okay, I'm going to stop reading Swamp Thing or whatever, and I'm going to go have dinner. And how many people have actually felt a frisson of terror down their spine from reading a comic? Very few. This is where novels and movies excel. Uh, I think that they're both equal in their power to scare the shit out of you. But movies have an advantage over novels. A couple of advantages. Number one is the pacing, they set the pace. You can't close the book and go out. At least you can't if you're paying for it in a theater. Now, at home, we're all streaming this stuff, so you can stop it at any time and go to the bathroom or get a treat and come back and start it again. But the power of the movie is such that if you stop it in the middle of a scary scene and you start it again, you're going to be right back in the middle of that scary scene. But there's another advantage that movies have that's overwhelming, and that is sound. You don't realize how important sound is in a horror movie until you're watching it and you realize that it's the sound that's terrifying you. There's a movie called The Haunting. It's a famous horror story, and it was made into a movie in the 60s in black and white. Uh, there's not a scene, there's not a drop of blood in it, there's not an act of violence in it. It'll scare the shit out of you, and it's all done with sound. Now, if you've seen The Exorcist, you know what I mean. The Exorcist, I consider that the greatest horror movie of all time because it has such depth. And the reason it has such depth is because it resonates through Christianity, through Catholicism. So it reaches deep into people's souls. But it's the voice of Regan, uh, which was supplied by Mercedes McCambridge at the time. She's a great actress. But the voice of Regan is terrifying. And those of you who've seen The Exorcist know what I mean. Their horror movies are a sure thing. You can put out a trash horror movie and it'll make money, and people do. I mean, how many uh, Jason Voorhees movies have there been? How many were actually scary? Maybe the first one. How many summer camp movies have there been? Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But there's a difference between horror and slasher. A horror movie, a true horror movie, results on the icy finger of the unknown touching your spine. When you believe that there's something just beyond your vision that you can't comprehend, that's malevolent and intends to destroy you or worse, that's what a horror movie can do. And that's what horror is. A slasher movie is, well, I suppose there's certain horror in gruesome acts of violence, but it's not supernatural terror. And it's supernatural terror that makes the greatest horror movies stand out. And if you love The Exorcist, you should see Exorcist number 3. It's almost as good. It was written and directed by William Peter Blatty, who wrote The Exorcist. He's also a fine film director. Uh, he wrote and directed a movie called The Ninth Configuration, which is about a group of troubled military veterans who are gathered together in a creepy mansion in the Pacific Northwest for treatment. And Stacy Keach is the new commander who comes in to oversee their treatment. Every line is memorable. I can't recommend it too highly. I love horror movies myself, and I love horror in comics, or I wouldn't be doing Bronze Star, and I wouldn't have done Dead Man when I did at the time. And I have a couple of other horror movies and horror graphic novels up my sleeve. In fact, I've written 4 horror novels. They're all available on Amazon. They'll scare the shit out of you. They got great reviews. Banshee's got a starred review from Publishers Weekly. Banshees is about a satanic rock band that comes back from the dead. And let me show you that. All right, here we go. Now we're going to upload. We're going to upload. Not that. Not that. Here we go. No, that's not it. Don't mind me, folks. Here we go. Image file. Yes, image file. I'm getting the hang of this. There it is. Upload that file. Not that one. Get rid of these. Get rid of these. I'm struggling here, folks. There it is. Kevin J. Anderson gave me that quote. Mike Barron is like Quentin Tarantino on paper. Now, man, I love that quote, and I love Kevin. I think he was giving me a real boost at the time, but and I love Quentin Tarantino, as I said, but I have to say that my favorite movie is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It just resonates. And one of the reasons is there are no dull moments. Every moment of that movie is fascinating. I've watched it many times, and I'll probably watch it several more times. Now, I understand that there's a sequel in the works that they're going to air on Netflix starring Brad Pitt. Only Tarantino pulled out of directing it. I look forward to it because he wrote the script, and uh, at this stage in his career, I think he's hit the sweet spot. There's nothing of his I won't see or read. He's got a new novel out too. I will be reading that. A lot of his movies don't work for me because of their upending of history. When I watch Inglorious Bastards, the moment when they burn down the cinema and they destroy Hitler, I say, well, I would like to believe in that, but that's just wishful thinking. There are so many great individual scenes in the movie, but do they hang together? No. And the same thing with Django. I love Django right up until the moment at the end when Django wastes a half hour riding back to the mansion to set everything on fire. It should have ended before then. And I wasn't that crazy about The Hateful Eight either. But I do like Quentin Tarantino, and he's hit a high peak with his latest movie. So I think he'll go nowhere but up. Looking forward to whatever it is he produces next. But to get back to comics, for those of you who want to do a comic, I started out writing comics by drawing each page out by hand. Uh, and I can't recommend that method too highly for anyone, whether you can draw or not. And the reason is it'll teach you so much. Even if you're just a writer and have no skills whatsoever, I have minimal skills. That is, when I draw something, people will look at it and they know exactly what I'm drawing. I have a little perspective. I got a little bit of the human figure. I got spaceships. People look at it and say, yeah, that's a layout. That's a good layout. I know exactly what you want. Most people don't. That doesn't matter. The important thing is that you draw the page on a legal pad. Then you draw the first panel. And you think, what happens here? What makes it interesting? And that's the key part, is that every part of that book has to be interesting. There can't be a wasted word or a wasted picture. And you have to think about that. So you decide, all right, this is my first panel. This is where I introduce my protagonist. And I do by making him, her, or it interesting. Well, how do I do that? Well, they could be in the midst of action, but let's face it. 80% of comics open when you open the page, and the first page is some kind of slam bang action sequence with the protagonist fighting off aliens or punching someone or delivering a sidekick. And there's a big box that says, I wonder how I got here. And then you go into a flashback to 5 days earlier to build up to it. I don't like to use flashbacks. I have used them and I probably will use them, but I try to keep them to a minimum. I like a linear story that starts at the beginning and goes straight through to the end. Well, how do you make your protagonist interesting? Well, you can do it with the art, of course, and we've all picked up comics because we love the art. I know I did. I picked up a comic. This is apocryphal. Years ago, I started collecting Master of Kung Fu when I saw Paul Gulacy's art. I picked that book up. I thought, holy shit, this is the greatest thing since Steranko. And it was because Gulacy cued off Steranko. Gulacy was to Steranko what Rand Holmes was to Wally Wood. And now you may not know who Rand Holmes was because his career was much too short and was mostly in the underground, but he's worth seeking out. If you like Wally Wood, so Rand Holmes was his rightful successor. And I read that comic and I loved it. But I realized there was no kung fu in it. There was no serious representation of the martial arts. And by that, I mean showing a technique in an exciting and dynamic way that sheds some light not only on the protagonist, but the technique itself. We've all seen a punch. We've all seen a kick. We all know what they look like. And they certainly have their place in kung fu. But there's so much more than that. There are takedowns. There are joint locks. There are specific blows you can do with your hand. We've all seen, I just saw this by Alex Toth. He did a Black Canary fight where she's hitting the guy that assaults her with a hand like this. It's called a pseudo strike because it's supposed to be a knife hand. But in reality, when you do that, you have to clench your fingers like this to create the strength in the hand. So when you strike with the outside edge, it's much harder and more powerful than if you try and do it like this. And that's just one tiny little thing. Another thing is when you kick somebody with a side kick, you're striking them with the outside edge of your heel. your toes are tucked in towards your body, and ideally they're lower than the heel. And that very seldom made it into a kung fu comic. Uh, when I do a martial arts sequence, I choreograph it very carefully, and I'll use videos I find off the web. I'll tell the artist what's happening in each panel, and then I'll send them to the video and say, use it, stop it, freeze it. You do freeze frame, show the technique unfolding in real time, hold your camera still so that they can see both protagonists. Nobody wants to see a close up of a fist slugging a face. At least I don't, because that doesn't show technique. And we don't see that in a good kung fu movie. And when it comes to good kung fu movies, I think Donnie Yen's Ip Man movies are among the best. I recommend them very highly, not only because the stories are realistic, but because the martial arts are so beautifully displayed. That's true of all Bruce Lee's movies as well. In fact, Bruce was so fast that the cameraman asked him to slow down so that he could catch the technique on film. Bruce directed one movie. It was originally called Enter the Dragon. But they swiped that for the movie he did for his major studio debut, Enter the Dragon, which also starred Bob's. Who was in Enter the Dragon? I know Sumo Hung was in it, but also.
Oh, what's his name? Oh man, come on! I hate when this happens. Astin, Sean Astin.
Not Astin.
No,
You know what?
no,
Hang
not
on.
him. Guy that looks like him. Come on. I can't remember his name.
Here you go. Robert Wall, Jim Kelly, John Saxon.
That's it. John Saxon. That's
Young.
the guy.
And this is a funny story is that my friend Steve Rude wrote Robert Wall, who liked his work very much, and commissioned a painting. And then Bob started phoning Steve Rude at all hours of the day or night just to ramble. And dude say, Bob, why do you call me all the time? And Bob says, I'm just trying to fuck with you.
Yeah. Now look, Lou Alcindor was not in Enter the Dragon. He was in Game of Death.
Who was?
He was one. He was Lou Alcindor.
No, he was in the Game of Death. Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Which is an unfinished movie, which has got some great fight sequences, but it's not a coherent film.
Well, he died during that one, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And a lot of people wonder how he died. Well, he was using a lot of drugs at the time. But the fellow who wrote the definitive biography on Bruce Lee said he died of heat stroke. And I think that was probably a contributing factor. The Bruce Lee biography, written by a guy named Matthew.
I have a visitor here. I think he wants to say hi to you, Mike. Do you want to say hi to Mike?
Yeah.
Do you want to say hi? What do you want, dude? What? What was that? What do you want? Rocky came to say hi. Huh. He's hovering.
Robert Klaus, who directed Enter the Dragon, wrote a biography. Okay. But that's not the one I'm looking for. I'm looking for the one by Matthew. Matthew Polly. Matthew Polly. Now, Matthew Polly was uniquely qualified to write about Bruce Lee because Matthew Polly went to China and spent 3 years training at the Shaolin Temple. And he wrote a book about it called American Shaolin, which I recommend. And his biography is the definitive biography. It's much more detailed than anybody else's. If you want to read about Bruce Lee, that's the place to start. But getting back to martial arts movies, which came from getting back to Kung Fu comics, but getting back to martial arts movies, there are so many now. It's hard to to escape them.
Right. So I got to ask you a question, Mike. Are the artist representations of these fight scenes that you wrote the story for, are the artist representations of the fight scenes good? Are they up to your standard?
Are they accurate?
Are they good? Are they good enough for what you would do yourself?
Yes.
You know,
And the reason is,
I got them all, baby.
and the reason is that Vale Myerick, who drew those books, is a martial artist.
There you go. You see how that works, people. You see how that works? Just like that. Yes, I have all of these. And when we meet, you're going to be signing all of these. I'm just letting you know that ahead of time.
I know. I'm happy to do that, Pops. In fact, you want to mail them to me, I'll mail them back.
Oh, no, it's going to have to be in person, my friend. Come on. We got to meet one of these days.
Now, Jason Statham has taken over the role of the martial artist of our time, and he's very good.
Mm-hmm.
I love to see him in action. He knows his stuff. His fight scenes are very convincing. One of his best movies is Safe. It was directed by Boaz Yakin, and not many people have seen it. I recommend it highly. I also recommend Working Man, which was based on a Chuck Dixon's novel. I read the novel. A Working Man is highly entertaining, mostly because of the action sequences. It has very little to do with Chuck's novel. Chuck's novel is about a guy named Levon Cade, who's a good old boy from Georgia. It was directed by Sylvester Stallone. And here's the thing about Sly. Is no matter where the book takes place, he's going to change the locale to wherever he has the money. And he happened to have the money in Chicago at that time. So A Working Man takes place in Chicago, which does away with the good old boy Southern persona. I still recommend it highly. And Sylvester Stallone also directed a movie written by, no, I'm blanking on it. Hang on. A very fine writer. Ah, man, I got to take my Privigen more often. I've read all his books. He's based in Minneapolis. And the whole point of the book was, it was called Homefront. Homefront is the name of the novel and the name of the movie. And the movie takes place, or the book takes place in Minneapolis. But the movie, starring Jason Statham, takes place in Louisiana. And here's the thing about Jason Statham is they asked him to play a good old boy from Georgia in A Working Man. And Jason says, all right, I'm a good old boy from Georgia. Where's your at? Put on your at. And the same thing happened with Homefront, where he was playing a backwoods Minnesota guy. And they're kind of Northwoods. They say oofda, and yeah, what can I do for you? But not Jason Statham. He's playing a Minnesota like this. And put on your ad. But that's Jason Statham. I love him none the same. Scott Adkins, another fine actor. He's not really gotten the film he deserves, except for Undisputed #2, which I highly recommend. He's also in John Wick #4. He's the fat guy that John Wick fights towards the end. Of course, it's Scott Adkins wearing a fat suit. He's not fat at all.
Right.
But eventually he's going to get the movie he deserves. There are a million martial arts movies. I've seen a lot of them. Most of them aren't very good. There's one from Australia called Life After Fighting, which is superior. I can't recommend it too highly. Life After Fighting. I think I saw it on Tubi. I know it's available on a streaming service. And it was written and directed by a very accomplished martial artist who acts in it as well. He's a good actor. The whole movie is one of the best martial arts movies I've ever seen. Because it used to be, back in the day, they wedged the martial arts in. They'd kind of kind of put it on like a lagniappe. I'm thinking about that the I want to say the Shogun of Harlem. What movie was the Shogun of Harlem in? Never mind.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it was a black movie. It was one of the first black martial arts movies. It was just on the verge of, it was post black exploitation. Um, and it starred a guy who really only starred in that one movie and then went on to a successful career doing comic book conventions where he was well known. There's a lot of these actors and actresses are known for niche roles, but they're all known to comic book fans because we love those niche roles, and we see them at
All the
comic
Warriors.
conventions. Unfortunately, at a lot of comic conventions, they squeeze out the comics, but that's all
Mhm.
right. The
You
show in
do have some
Charlotte, North
questions.
Carolina. Pardon?
You do have some questions over in the chat.
Questions? The Last
You,
Dragon. Thank you, Rich Ware.
yeah.
Thank you. All I have to do is ask this question of the audience, and they will find the answer. I like
Yeah.
Cynthia Rothrock, but I haven't seen that many of her movies. I would like to see more. Chuck Logan wrote, Homefront Rich, you are a font of information. I should
Mhm.
consult with you before I do any of these. So where was I? Oh yeah, the feuds on X. No, I'm going to go back to creating a comic. So you draw that page on a legal pad. You draw the panel, and you draw in your first panel, and you put in your protagonist. And it could be something that inevitably leads to the next panel, like what's that sound? And then you think, well, what would be interesting? What is the next sound? What triggers the action? And perhaps you show the outside of his apartment, and there's a guy trying to use key locks to unlock his apartment. I'm just spitballing here. It's something that occurs to me while I'm talking about it. But that's how I wrote comics for 25 years. I do each page out by hand, and I went from panel to panel. I did plot them ahead of time. I knew the type of story I wanted to tell, and I had the dramatic structure in my head. I've had it ingrained in my head since I was a child. A story is a dynamic narrative with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And by dynamic, that means that the results are always in question. In fact, each scene is in question. If you've watched network TV, you know what I mean, because the people who write TV are adept at ending each segment, which may be 12 minutes long, on a bit of a cliffhanger, just as a novelist ends each chapter on a bit of a hook. So it doesn't just like stop midstream and you say, well, that doesn't feel like we went anywhere. The chapter has to feel like you went somewhere. And sometimes it arrives there organically, and sometimes it arrives when a guy comes through the door with a gun. Now, Raymond Chandler said, if you don't know what happens next, you can always have a guy come through the door with a gun, which leads us to resonance. Resonance is when you introduce elements early in the story that become crucial to the story later on. It's also known as Chekhov's rule. Chekhov says if you show a gun on the wall in the first act, somebody has to use it by the third. So there I am writing comics, moving from panel to panel, and every time I would go slowly and think, what happens next? What's interesting? And it meant that I didn't waste any panels, and I didn't turn it over to the artist like Stan used to do. He'd say to Jack, okay, Jack, I need 3 pages here of Spider-Man fighting Doc Ock. Now, fortunately, Jack Kirby was a gifted storyteller, so he knew how to put those pages together so that they were interesting. He choreographed the fight. He introduced interesting elements. That should have been Stan's job, but Stan was probably writing too much, and he was right to hand that over to Jack, but I would never do that. Now, if you want to learn the art of a master, Carl Barks is the greatest master of the comic book who ever lived. He created Uncle Scrooge, and he drew and wrote Donald Duck comics for many years. And if you pick up any story by Carl Barks, you'll find that there's not a wasted word or a panel in any of those. And you're engrossed in the story. And when you get done, you have the reaction I did, which was, holy shit, that was good. Why can't most comics be that good? And that's it for today. I'll be able to go twice as long when my partner Huff joins me next week, and we hope to do it Thursday. Huff thinks he can do it, but as I said, he's an anesthesiologist. And he was on call tonight on an emergency, and he couldn't make it. But we will be back.
I was going to say, I only popped in for comedic relief.
No,
guys,
Pops. I'm glad you were here. I'm glad you were here, Potts. You saved my ass several times, and so did the people in the comment section. Thank you, folks, for showing interest, for supplying answers to my questions, and for supplying questions for me to answer. I will return when you least expect it, which will be 1 week from today, Thursday evening. Thank you.
I'm going to play a couple of ads on the way out for some of the current stuff going on.
Me or you?
I'm going to. I got some ads later.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Pops.
Thanks, Mike. As always, thank everybody for watching, and check out some of this other cool stuff. Peace.
In a world where sequels and prequels and derivative slop rule the TV and movie landscape, one magazine dares to make fun of them all. One mag to roast them all. One mag to troll them. One mag to break their balls. And in the ratings, roll them.
Cut!
Ozzy, what are you doing? Come and have a look at this lovely book that was sent over.
You're wrapping in the burning,
Oh, go on and spit the bat out your mouth. No one can understand you like that.
Say how 5 dentists and all.
Oh, well, that's not much better. Ozzy, why don't you sing to me? I can always understand you when you sing to me.
Fucking my brains. What is this my publisher sent me? Inked in black with art so sweet.
So what do you think? Do you like it?
Oh, Lord, yeah.
Oh, is that voice?
Hey, how's it going?
What are you doing in my house?
Oh, just sitting here, reading the paper, noticing the fact there's an awful lot of folks seem to be making comebacks this Halloween.
What as if that's a fucking cute? What is possible?
Well, as you can see, I have made some improvements.
What in the holy fuck is that? Oh, fucking nightmare.
See? Told you there's plenty of people making a comeback.
Actually, speaking of him, I joined myself in this soppy face fuck this Sunday on American Horror, where we're going to be talking about the Goldberg's Halloween Special, which is a TV show that myself and you have never watched before. But most importantly, it's because Robert Englund is in it for the first time, full gear, as Freddy Krueger in numerous number of years, so we thought it was an occasion to mark. This Sunday, American Horror, 8:30 p.m. ish. CST.
Oh, except him. Not won't seen him for a while.
Yeah, said that guy.
I'm curious, Bill. How'd a Missouri lawman end up all the way out here?
Back in '62, I rode with Grant. We went through Memphis on our way to Vicksburg. I remember thinking, Memphis is a nice town if it wasn't on fire. I wouldn't mind going back there. After the war, I moved home to Missouri, and some damn fool talked me into being a lawman. I didn't see that coming, but I was good at it. Wearing a badge and cracking heads. I don't know, I just had an itch, man. Just felt like there was something I was missing. Something else I wanted to do. So I came out here.
How'd you get to running with Shooter then?
I met Shooter in Chattanooga. In lieu of a court-martial, he was on disciplinary leave. Most people didn't like Shooter, but we always got along pretty good. Sooner or later, every man's got to make a choice. On the back end of that choice is where a man finds out what he's made of.
If the live viewing of any Madness Entertainment Group production, you can find all our content on Roku or as a member of this channel. We'll see you next time on the Madness Entertainment